The problems that led to bloodshed in 1886 didn't go away. Hours were still long and wages were still low. But Milwaukee kept growing anyway, fed by a never-ending flow of new immigrants attracted by new industries. Between 1890 and 1910, Milwaukee's population doubled. The city surged past Washington, New Orleans, and Cincinnati to become the 12th largest in America.
A building boom transformed the city center at the turn of the 20th century. Scores of new landmarks appeared, some raised by industrialists as useful monuments to their success. Meatpackers built Milwaukee's first shopping center, which now anchors the shops of Grand Avenue, as well as gracious apartments with stunning views of the lake, as well as the city's first art gallery. Leather tanners erected fine hotels, and brewers were everywhere. The Pabst family built Milwaukee's first skyscraper, rising all of 13 stories. And a theater that offered some of the finest German language productions outside of Germany. The Schlitz Palm Garden brought the ambiance of a German beer garden indoors. Other landmarks were symbols of corporate might. 2 railroad depots served as the grand entrances to Milwaukee in the age of steam. Northwestern Mutual's home office was a monumental expression of financial strength. And there were public buildings of equal stature. The city's first convention center was a Victorian marvel of domes and dormers. When fire brought it down in 1905, the auditorium rose on the same site. Milwaukee County's stately courthouse filled the north half of today's Cathedral Square. The Federal Building housed the post office as well as courtrooms. A combination library and museum helped to satisfy the public's thirst for knowledge. The crowning glory of all downtown buildings, public or private, was City Hall. It was dedicated in 1895 after endless controversy over site, design, and budget. Milwaukee's first million-dollar building rested on a forest of wooden pilings in a former swamp, but it fast became a civic icon and symbol of pride. City Hall was also an ethnic statement. Its turrets and towers represented a deep bow to Milwaukee's Germanic traditions. New landmarks appeared in the residential districts. As industrial fortunes swelled, architects designed castles for a new class of kings. Grand Avenue, now West Wisconsin Avenue, was lined with mansions from 9th Street all the way to 35th. Highland Boulevard, just a few blocks north, was loaded with families who were, well, loaded. Among them Pabsts, Millers, Gettlemans, Usingers, Kiekheifers, and filters. So many wealthy Germans lived on Highland that it was dubbed Sauerkraut Boulevard. On the east side, well-heeled citizens moved up the Lake Bluff from Yankee Hill and lined Prospect Avenue with some of the finest Victorian mansions in the Midwest. Their next stop was North Point, where Pabst's, Fox, Smith's, and Cudahy's shared a view of the water tower. The wealthy districts were dwarfed by working-class neighborhoods that sprang up on all sides of the city. Housing for workers, whether Polish flats on the south side or duplexes on the German north side, made Milwaukee one of the most densely populated cities in America. By 1902, only Boston and Baltimore had more people per acre.
There wasn't much of a middle class in the turn of the century in Milwaukee. A few neighborhoods were built for the movers and shakers, while the rest belonged to the moved and shaken. Those contrasts carried far beyond the city's borders. Between 1890 and 1910, Milwaukee's outward growth produced no fewer than 8 suburbs. They mirrored the wealthy and working class extremes of the city itself, especially along the lakeshore. As always, old neighborhoods set the pattern for new ones.
Bayview provided the model for the southern lakeshore. The old iron mill town was still an industrial powerhouse. In the 1890s, Patrick Cudahy moved his packing plant from the Menominee Valley to a large tract of land south of Bayview. The plant gave rise to a suburb that still bears the founder's name. Just down the lakeshore from Cudahy, South Milwaukee developed an industrial character of its own. The suburb's largest employer for many years was the Bucyrus Steam Shovel Company, later known as Bucyrus Erie. Industry ruled the southern lakeshore, but something quite different was happening on the other side of Milwaukee Bay. In 1894, some of the Gold Coast's younger set began to play a new game on the edge of town, using tomato cans for cups and bandanas for flags. Pasture pool, the skeptics called it. But golf took root. Before long, it was the primary pastime of the Milwaukee Country Club, whose members opened an elegant clubhouse on the Lake Bluff. In 1900, the land around the club was incorporated as East Milwaukee, a suburb known today as Shorewood. Just north was Captain Frederick Pabst's Whitefish Bay Resort, a beer garden that drew throngs of Milwaukeeans coming out by carriage on Lake Drive or by steamer from downtown. In 1892, the land around the resort was incorporated as Whitefish Bay, another community destined for affluence. From sand traps on one side to stockyards on the other, Milwaukee Bay separated 2 different worlds. There was similar variety in the inland suburbs. 3 were industrial: North Milwaukee, West Milwaukee, and West Allis, whose largest taxpayer was Allis Chalmers. The 4th was Wauwatosa, an old Yankee village that had become a gracious bedroom suburb. With a bumper crop of new suburbs and a builder's catalog of new landmarks, Milwaukee was taking on all the earmarks of a thoroughly modern metropolis. Its residents were also embracing the latest technologies. The first telephones went into service in 1877, serving a total of 3 subscribers. By 1896, there were 3,000. Public transit in Milwaukee had always meant cars drawn by horses or mules. In 1890, the West Side Street Railway won a furious race to electrify. One reporter described the cars whizzing down Wells Street like streaks of lightning on roller skates. During the same years, gas lights steadily gave way to electric light. The newfangled bulbs turned night to day in the city's breweries, beer gardens, and music halls. A few Milwaukeeans were exploring an even newer technology. The first automobiles, most of them electrics, were so novel that they were the vehicles of honor in a 1900 Civic parade.
Milwaukee was changing, but it still moved to a rhythm all its own, a measured pace that blended large and small, old world and new. Luckily, we have an outstanding visual record of the period. The city had grown large enough to attract some master photographers, people like H.H. Bennett, Sumner Madison, and Robert Taylor. Their images form a Milwaukee family album from the turn of the 20th century. Despite its rank as America's 12th largest city, Milwaukee did have both the feel and the self-image of a much smaller community. A century later, it's still often referred to as a big, small town. An important reason for that character was, and is, the proximity of Chicago.
Milwaukeeans were fully aware that their old rival had won the population race. The nation's second largest city lay just 90 miles south, and there was little hope that Milwaukee could ever catch up to Chicago. Some preferred their hometowns' more leisurely pace. Others gave in to a sense of civic inferiority. John Johnston, a downtown banker, voiced a similar complaint way back in 1872.
There is one thing we are deficient in here. We have not the necessary blow and brag. Not only have we not that, but we daily see men standing with their hands in their pockets, whining about Milwaukee being a one-horse town. Such men are not worthy to live here. Milwaukee is not Chicago, but there are few cities like Chicago. Still, if Milwaukee be not Chicago, Milwaukee has grown at a rate surpassed by but a very limited number of cities in this whole union. Instead of grumbling and whining, let us have some city pride, and let us not listen to any citizen of Milwaukee crying down this, the handsomest and healthiest and happiest city in the West. Let us cultivate the talent of brag. And whether at home or abroad, let us boast of Milwaukee.
Many years later, the city's boosters are still trying to cultivate the talent of brag. Municipal modesty, for better or worse, seems to be as much a part of Milwaukee as bubblers and beer. The truth is that Milwaukee has always had plenty to brag about, both then and now. But there were also reasons for concern.